Hello, my name is Anjani Segrist, and this video is going to be a brief instructional type video about stellium and vertex in astrology. So what I talk about a lot in astrological work and nutrition counseling and yoga and pretty much everything that I do is something called alchemy, where we're taking the energy and essence of different aspects of life or different foods in astrology, different planetary energies, and combining them together to get something with a different flavor. So this is like looking at the sky like a cosmic stew, and the different elements that are lined up together in certain areas on your chart give you a different flavor and a different so for instance, this chart has a stellium in the 11th house. Really good on calling that. She's got Pluto, Mercury, Juno, and the Sun all within a 10-degree radius. So the Juno is an asteroid. A lot of people don't use Juno, but I like to add it on there to find out the person's style of relating. It's often used as a marriage indicator to see what's most important to that person in a marriage type of joining together of two people, bringing together two people's money and moving in together and all that kind of energy. So anyhow, they're kind of outside of the 10-degree orb. So Pluto and Mercury are at 12, Juno is at 23, and the Sun is at 25. So they're not exactly within a 10-degree radius, but I would probably still call this a stellium because it is really, really close to all being within 10 degrees. So basically what happens here in this person's chart, the way that she expresses herself, that's Mercury. And the Sun is the fuel that you burn, or your overall style and flair, because the Sun has that overall, it shines. So the way I call this is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. We can use the Sun to kind of get an idea about that. And then when you combine that with Pluto, it's like, and Juno, okay, so let's go little by little. Combining her communication style with Pluto says that she has the ability to bring us into the underworld. This person she's really in touch with the underworld and the depth and the intensity and death and rebirth, everything that has to do with destruction. Destruction, and she probably understands this, is like not an end. It's an end and a beginning at the same time. Just like right now we're at a new moon point. It's the same exact thing. Something had to get really, really dark and end its life, its cycle. It's like when women have our period, that egg is done and it dies, but it has to happen because now there's going to be a whole new cycle that's starting. So she understands that. Mercury is about cognition, perception, the way that we take information in and the way we put information out. So connecting those two together, now we have an idea about her communication style. And then Juno being, let's add Juno into that, so that in her relationships there would be no separation. Like her partner would really need to understand that maybe at her cycle time she does have that. Like maybe she becomes Pluto, and her expression and the way that she talks and the way she looks, everything becomes like Pluto. So some women, some people can separate, okay, well now I feel like this, but I'm still going to be a different way in at work or in relationship with my partner or with my kids. Some people, it's like they're in the underworld, they're totally in it, and everybody's coming with them. And that's totally fine. You know, it's like the way that you're going to express your authentic essence. We can understand that from the chart, but now I just want to say that's totally fine. Like if you know, being compartmentalized is beneficial at some times, but also at some point, this lady could probably speak to that a lot more, that everything goes into the cocoon with you when you're becoming a butterfly, you know? So there's the Juno aspect. Now we add the sun to it. So when you put all this together, the sun is going to sort of flare out over everything. So now her sun has this flavor of Pluto, Mercury, and Juno. And I like to imagine just putting this in a pot, stirring everything up, and then imagining into what that might look like for her. That gives us a good idea about her personality, because the sun and Mercury are there, which are super, super close to us. We call it a personal planet. And then with these transits, we can see how that might be activating her right now. And I would love to hear from her about, how was your birthday yesterday? Because the sun going over this little soup, this cosmic soup, the moon was going over that, Vesta was going over that. So it's like a trigger, you know, having a trigger point sort of a day, and Jupiter just passed over that. So basically, when we have these energies passing over certain parts of our natal chart, it's like a trigger point, and it can, it's meant to cause a disturbance, cause a little destruction, cause some expansion, you know, whatever is passing over. That's the sort of energy that we're going to be vibing with. The next thing is about Vertex. So I'm going to use, not this chart, I'm going to use another lady's chart here. So she has her Vertex, Sagittarius, 5th house. So it's 24 degrees Sagittarius and in the 5th house. And Saturn is going over that right now. So Saturn on the chart is over here. You can see Saturn at 24 degrees. Saturn's at 23 degrees right now. So that's hitting this other lady's Vertex right now. And Saturn hitting that could be bringing up, so first let's talk about Vertex. In astrology, I personally don't use it unless there's some, if I'm doing a timings reading, going back in time, say you had some catastrophic event, a meeting of somebody that changed your life, a breaking up with somebody that changed your life, or really a natural disaster that you lived through. Looking at your natal vertex and looking where Vertex is at on the chart, where it's moving around, can give us some clues about the meaning of that. It's sort of like a Pluto initiation, in the sense that it gives us that feeling of a catastrophe. So that's basically what Vertex is. Right now, if you have Saturn going over Vertex, that could say that it would make you want to ask about Vertex, because Saturn gives us, when we have a transit from Saturn, it can activate that feeling in us to want to be in control, have control over or with ourself, and the way we engage in the world, and learning how to be our inner authority. So I'm doing all these hand signals. I just want to take a short minute to explain the way that I see the whole astrological phenomenon. Within our body, we have everything that's out there imprinted in here in different ways. And in our psychology, in our psyche, our energy, the magnetic field around our body, or that's generated from within our body, there's certain movements that happen in the sky that touch on those different things. Just the same way with the sun and the moon, their movements cause different things to happen on Earth. Everybody knows that. You know, if you move to Washington for a year and live where it's rainy half the time, you will feel in a rainy mood. You will feel gray. You will feel, you know, the energy of what the sky and the earth are feeling. We're not separate from that. So I really love using astrology as a tool to help us to understand more about ourselves, how we can connect with the sky, connect with the earth, and really become integrated and whole, because each of the planets and placements of the planets have a particular meaning, that even if we don't care a thing about astrology, just asking certain questions like, who am I and who are you? That just that alone is like, in relationships, it's really great to know the answers to these things. So there you go. I'll go ahead and stop here. I hope that helped to clarify stellium. So stellium is when 3 things, celestial bodies, are within a 10-degree orb. It creates a new flavor to whatever was in the mix. Let me just say one more thing here. If it's a stellium between 3 things that are not personal planets, say it's Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. Those are really slow-moving planets, and I'm thinking, when were those all 3 in the sky within a 10-degree orb? I'm sure that it happens. Anyway, that might not be so influential for your life, unless, say that you had a stellium of all outer planets, and it was square to your natal moon. And, you know, the stellium being square to something that's considered a personal planet would more influence the way you are and the way that you are understanding and moving through life. Only if it was connected to something else. So I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, because it really helps me a lot to integrate material, and I really feel awesome and amazing about getting information like this out into the world and making it less weird and more normal. It makes no sense to me why this isn't normal, because it's the sky, you know, like I feel like a lot of us who've had a transition from a very, like, I used to be in the military and I had a very normal life, and transitioning over to me has meant, you know, taking charge of my health, being more engaged, and not blaming anything for, like, it's just taking responsibility for my life. The first thing was getting in touch with the earth, like finding the foods I was going to eat, being more in touch with the way that I, products that I used, chemicals in my stuff, you know what I mean? Like, I got really clear on that, and it made perfect sense. Then connecting with the sky, it's the same thing. It, you know, you look through the ancient Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, all the ancient people were super connected with the sky and did rituals and ceremonies and really honored that connection. So that, to me, is really a magical thing that we can all do, even if it is just following the sun and moon. I give new moon readings and full moon readings every month. I do those for free on YouTube, and I always will give a little short interactive thing or integration techniques, and I call it checking the temperature of the, you know, of the cosmos and seeing how we can engage with that. So anyway, thank you so much. Please feel free to ask any questions. I look forward to connecting with you soon.